Over at DC Comics, the publisher recently launched a Shazam ongoing series featuring really spectacular art and writing over from Mark Waid and Dan Mora. And while I enjoyed some of the irreverent visuals and the really charming script of that issue, I really did want the kind of publisher to ramp up the pace a little bit and introduce some new plot threads. Plus, I was looking for the creative team to really focus in on the character of Mary Bromfeld. My name is Arico Braddock, and today I want to go ahead and see if Mora and Waid are able to really establish the foundations for a Shazam ongoing series over in the pages of Shazam issue 2. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. I want to go ahead and kick off our review over for Shazam number 2 by reading DC Comics solicitation text for the issue. Meet the Captain, Chapter 2. Shazam versus Shazam. Billy Batson was given the powers of the gods by the Wizard Shazam, but Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury never gave the wizard their permission. Displeased with how Billy is representing them, the disgruntled gods engage in a six-way fight for sole control of the world's mightiest mortal, or if they get their way, the world's mightiest puppet. May the craftiest god win. I want to go ahead and introduce our creative team on Shazam number 2. This one, of course, is written by Mark Waid. Of course, it's illustrated over from Dan Mora, but we also have colors from Alejandro Sanchez, letters from Troy Peteri, and the cover for this issue is also illustrated by Dan Mora as well. Here's a look at the cover over for Shazam number 2. I love how this cover teases some of the plot with the kind of gods behind some of Shazam's powers featured prominently over on the cover with the kind of stoic looking Billy Batson as Shazam, seemingly looking off at them over in the distance. And I want to extend a big thank you to Adventures in Poor Taste, of course, for posting these previews so incredibly fast. Let's go ahead and start our review of the issue by focusing in on Dan Mora's artwork. I love how precise some of Mora's artwork is, whether it be on the kind of facial expressions or the composition of the page. I'm always taken by the way that Dan Mora is able to sort of render Mark Waid's script over in the issue with kind of so much precision and really strong character reactions as well in the issue. One of the parts that I really enjoyed about Dan Mora's work in this issue in particular is the sense of negative space that he uses to kind of color in some of the kind of page compositions in such an interesting way here. Also, there's some really fantastic moments with the dinosaur interacting with some of Billy's extended family over in the issue that is just kind of so much fun to witness and see. Now, towards the beginning of our review, I really stated how I was looking for kind of Mark Waid and Dan Mora to kind of beef up the pace a little bit over on this issue of Shazam. And I think that they really actually do a pretty good job within the last 8 or 9 pages or so in really kind of giving a threat that's kind of core to the DC universe established here. There's actually a supervillain who sort of shows up over in this issue and creates a really kind of harrowing and tense scenario over for Billy. One thing I really enjoyed about this encounter is the fact that it was foreshadowed by the end of the previous issue as well. So it felt like there was a lot of really organic lead up to this. And I really do enjoy how this series has also had this focus on the Rock of Eternity ever since the first issue. And I love how that kind of lingering plot thread has been developing over time here, especially with some of those elements over from kind of Lazarus Planet. But really enjoyed the kind of status quo and the numerous epilogues that we got in the issue, kind of really establishing some of the background and some of the kind of subtext going on over in the Shazam narrative. It was so interesting reading the solicit that we talked about earlier because it kind of teased a couple of plot details here that are really brought out over from the epilogue. So really exciting to go ahead and see how that develops. And two, I love how the narrative is just more kind of entrenched over in DC's overall continuity due to the supervillain that's utilized over in this story. One thing I was really looking for over in Shazam number 2 that I didn't quite get to the degree that I was hoping for here is a little bit more of a stronger appearance over from Mary Bromfeld. I think this is really, really important because DC has really put an emphasis on this character in the pages of Lazarus Planet, the new champion of Shazam, as well as Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods, which were all published really recently over from DC Comics. I'm really happy that there was some information setting up this Night Terror story over with Mary, but due to the fact, again, that we just mentioned all those comic books where Mary had a really strong appearance in the DC universe, I would like her to sort of graduate to more of a focal point in this comic book. I think it would be so interesting if there were either two Shazam books or if there was a second plot thread or additional backup story here featuring Mary. And due to the fact that we got some of those kind of aspects over in Wonder Woman and Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods issues, I'm really puzzled as to why DC doesn't just have a backup or something else in here over for Mary Bromfeld. But I still enjoy the fact that we're at least getting some more material from here in the near future over in the Night Terror storyline. Was also so happy with where we left off with Freddy over at the Rock of Eternity, and to also see some of Billy's conflict as well. As the kind of last thing I'll say over in terms of the narrative here, I thought that Mark Waid did a really excellent job giving kind of two reasons behind why Billy sort of acted out in the cliffhanger of the first issue, between some of his own kind of, emotions being manipulated or the powers going haywire. I'm so interested in all the kind of directions that Mark Waid is beginning to sort of write himself into, and how it can really kind of expand and bolster the narrative over with the Shazam property. So overall here, I do think that Mark Waid and Dan Mora did a really good job sort of reestablishing some of the interesting plotting over with the Shazam property that's going to make this comic book a little bit easier to read as an ongoing series. Again, I think my biggest complaint for this comic book overall is the fact that DC's publishing line really emphasized Mary Bromfeld these past couple months, and they sort of dropped that emphasis for a big focus over on Billy, which I don't think is a problem at all, but I wish there was some sort of backup story to make DC's continuity feel a little bit more cohesive, coming in over from issue to issue to issue. Overall here, I think the team did a really excellent job. Very excited to go ahead and see some of the Night Terror, Shazam, Mary Bromfeld material in the near future, and to see this book come back for some future stories. I want to know from you, what are some of your thoughts over on Shazam #2? Do you think this issue was an improvement over on the first title? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming to go ahead and check out our video today. We'll be covering everything Shazam and really focusing in on Dawn of DC in the DC universe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.